Alright guys, in today's video what we're going to be taking a look at is on this Zebra GX420t. Our labels are coming out all smeared. That's because we need to replace the printhead. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Alright, so what we're going to be showing in changing this printhead applies to the GX420t, which is what we've got here, but also to the GX430t, although they do not use the same printhead. I'll give you the part numbers for both. I'm not going to walk through the manual yet, but the manual is going to show all the steps that we're going to do. I'm going to do these steps first, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the manual second. So the first thing we're going to do is reach around back and shut the power off to the printer. And then there's these two green buttons on either side. Push forward so we can get the hood lifted up here. Now we got to take the direct transfer ribbon off first. So just gently remove this guy by squeezing it to the right. Be very gentle with it so you don't damage it. And set it aside for now. All right, there's our ribbon. We're going to need to take a small screwdriver and we're going to need to get this plate removed here. So you can see when we put the screwdriver in here, it kind of slides to the side. And then it's got a little pin on this side. So always take it off from the right side first. Now to get the printhead changed, there's a hole here and there's a hole here. And we've got to depress a release tab that's inside there. So we want to get a suitable size tool. I'm just going to use a punch. You could use a Allen wrench or something else, something that'll fit inside here to get this released on this side and this side, right? And then with that released, now we've got three electrical connections. One here, and then this ground lead. We're going to need to unplug these two and disconnect this. Be very gentle with this. Just kind of work it back left and right until they come off. All right, that's all you got to do. So this is our old printhead. Now we're going to replace it for this particular 420t model with a Zebra 105 934 038. And we're going to have to transfer this into the assembly that we've got, right? Right, so it looks just like what we had here. All right, so the piece we took off, the printhead is mounted to this carrier. If you buy this OEM from Zebra, you get the whole piece. What we're going to be doing though is just replacing the actual printhead, so we're going to have to separate these two. So we got to get it off of this carrier. Now it's just press fit on here. If we zoom in here, it's just this piece of aluminum is sitting in the plastic. And on this side, the same deal, except that we got the ground pin here. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this off the plastic carrier from this side. Now it's super, super tight friction-wise. So it's going to take you a little bit of time to do this. And once we get it started and we get it cleared, we can then take the same screwdriver that we used to release this, so we can use this as a tool to help us push it off. Now each one of these springs, you've got to be careful as you go by, because they're going to have to go back in here, right? These 3 in the middle, the 2 on the end, are not populated. So as you go through, make sure that you do not lose them. There's the next one. And there's the last one. All right. Now we want to take this ground piece off. And we want to transfer this to our replacement. And then we want to start working this back on. So remember, we want the springs in the middle 3 positions. 1, 2, and 3. Trying to get it to go back past this piece of plastic here. All right. All right, so what were we struggling with at first? Let's take a look at this one here. So you can see there's a tab here and here that the screwdriver is fitting into, right? And there's the same thing on this side. So the edges of this aluminum have got to fit in between these 3 and these 3 at each of these positions, and then the spring will sit in the groove in the middle, all right? Once you do that, you'll start to get some resistance, just like you had when you were getting it off. And now we're coming up on the next one, so we're going to do the same thing. And as we get through further and further, we're going to get more and more resistance. In fact, what I think I might do is I might set this on the edge like this to give myself some more leverage. So we can get our next spring in. Another thing you can do is you can make sure that this tab here and here, to make sure that you're pushing it in the correct way so you're not fighting it incorrectly. And so, yep, it is a pisser to do, but it is cheaper just to replace this piece. But it can get jammed up in here really tough. Okay, there we go. All right, one more. All right, so we got one more to do right here. And then we shouldn't have too much of a fight on that end. What I'm going to do is, I don't have it handy here, I'm going to get a little plastic hammer to help me get this in, because it's hard on your hands with this sharp metal on the edge. Let me do that and we'll come back. All right, so didn't use that tool yet. But again, want to make sure that we highlight what we're trying to do here. Here and here, you can see those little pieces of plastic have to fit in the aluminum. If I move this back a hair, you can see it easier, right? This little wedge piece right here and right here. So as we push it down past the spring, what I found is it's just easier to get it on my boot so I can get enough force to get past that, right? So now we're about to do the last spring. I just figured this is better than giving it any kind of an impact, right? Just again giving you a view where as we pass by this last spring. Once the spring's in, I'm going to push down on the edge while I push the bar of the printhead down. So the spring's completely inside, and now we got to get it past this little piece I was telling you about, this alignment piece. Once we get past that one, we're home free because we don't have to do any more springs. We do have to clear this little ledge right there, right? Little plastic ledge. We got to clear that. And then as we do this side, we got to make sure the ground clip goes in. All right, almost done. Ground clips in. This last piece, just to get it flush, I think I will give it a couple of taps with a plastic hammer. Right. Went just a little bit too far. We want that flush, just like that. Just like that, nice and flush. All right, now we can come back up to the unit. Reconnect our ground line. And reconnect our two data lines. Let me get the flashlight where you guys can probably see what I'm doing. Just like that. All right, make sure it's seated. And now we got this last one over here. Let me get where I can see this. Instead of sitting down, I'm going to block your view for a second, but if we come up a little bit, you can probably see better what I'm doing, right? So these little pins are all males. Make sure when you put the female piece in that you're not bending them. Right? And make sure it's flush, just like that. Make sure that side's a little bit out. All right, so now these springs, we got to get to fit back in here. And we got to get this guy to fit in that little notch right there. Just like that. So when this moves, those springs should push it in and out, just like that. And now that retainer that we took off, we want to put that back on. So just like when we took it off, right, there's a little piece on the end here. This side. see the hole. All right, now we're still not done. The next thing we want to do is we want to take a Zebra cleaning pen. That's a part 105-950-035. Because we've been manhandling this thing, we want to get all of the skin oil off of it. We're going to start in the center and clean to the edges. That way we don't have any skin oils all over there. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to reinstall our transfer ribbon. You just partially roll it up a little bit here. Super gentle. Get the bottom in first, and then we'll get the top in. But you guys, a little cone piece, cardboard roll is going to fit into that. Then that's going to fit down there. And then we got to get the slack back out of it and get it back the way it was. If you get any wrinkles in it, you got to get those out. All right. We are ready to retest this. Going to reconnect our power. Make sure she's happy. It's happy. Let's go see if it's printing better. And then we're going to adjust the darkness. Because I'm sure when it first comes out, it's going to be too dark. All right, so I'm going to do another one because we messed with our ribbon. All right, it's better, but you can see what we still got is we got cross printing from the previous label. So we got to get the transfer ribbon tightened back up to new, clean thermal transfer area instead of pieces of the old. All right, there we go. Although I still see pieces of the old label here, it's getting a lot brighter. So let me go ahead and adjust down how dark it is. Let me show you that next. All right, so we're just going to go into the printer's internal settings. The default password on these is usually 1234. And we're going to go into general setup. Now the darkness is cranked up all the way because we were trying to deal with the printhead that was dying. We're going to go down to 15 now that we've replaced it. I'm going to submit the changes. They're saved temporarily. We're going to have to go back to the settings, and then we're going to have to save the current configuration. So now those settings are saved. All right, with our settings set and having run through a couple of rotations and gotten out where we didn't have the thermal ribbon rolled in all the way, now we're getting what I would hope to see, right? So all of this is coming out nice. Barcode is very nice. There's still a little bit of distortion here, but I don't know if that's just because of where we have the alcohol on and we might have to run a couple of ribbons. I think this is fine though. It's infinitely better than how we started, and I hope this helps you out with how to change just the printhead piece of the assembly. I'll put the part numbers for the 420t and the 430t for these printheads down in the video description. Let's go take a look at the manual that I told you I'd show you. So if I pull the manual back over, for those of you that did want to see what that was like. So in the manual, we did this step here with a screwdriver to remove the ribbon guide or printhead cover. Right, so that was the first step that we did. And then the second step the manual would have talked to you about is going through and identifying this clip and inserting a tool in order to depress it. And I showed you how to do that with a punch on both sides. Right? And then they would talk to you about rolling it back and disconnecting these two connectors, and then disconnecting the ground connector from the end. And then they would have talked to you about replacing the assembly, and it would have just been reversing the connectors because the OEM piece would have been all one unit. They spent some time explaining to you about where this tab piece fits in that I showed you, and they would have spent some time talking to you about the importance of taking these posts and getting them lined up in these slots. There's 5 of them, but as we saw in our unit, only 3 of them actually were populated with a spring. Maybe at some point all 5 were, and then for cost reduction reasons, that may have been discontinued. And then they talked to you about lining up the hole in the side and reinstalling the cover, popping that back in, and then told you to clean the printhead and then reload your media and your ribbon. And so cleaning the printhead, as we showed, is just a matter of taking the cleaning pen, starting from the center and going from the middle to the edges, right? Clean from the middle to the outside. This removes any adhesive as well as skin oils. Don't do any cleaning of the piece down here. And that's it. So I've showed you both what the manual goes through as well as actually doing it. So if you got questions or comments about how to do this, go ahead and leave them below. I'll try to help. If this saved you some money and taught you how to do this with just replacing the printhead, I appreciate you paying it forward by hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.